and welcome to our Creators Assemble Limelight interview. I'm Dan Wood with Creators Assemble. Today we bring you our Limelight interview for March 2021. This month we are bringing you a double threat creative duo, Sean and Lenora McRoberts. Their creative works are currently on display on our Limelight gallery at creatorsassemble.org. Before we roll into the interview, I'm going to give you a little bio on each of them. Sean has been tinkering around with music for nearly 20 years, playing in local bands, recording, and composing original music. He loves making music and playing Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop RPGs. Last year, in the crazy year that was 2020, he decided to take the plunge and marry his two favorite hobbies together and create music for tabletop RPGs. On the other side, we've got Lenora. She has been a jack of all trades when it comes to creative endeavors. Music, traditional art, photography, you name it, she's done it. But after starting to play D&D in 2018, she realized how important storytelling was to her, and in 2019, she sat down to write her debut novel. And then last year, made another big decision. She bought a digital art tablet and started drawing again. What was a gamble into a new art form has paid off, and the jack of all trades now knows what she's passionate about. So that's quite the little background here. So welcome, Sean. Welcome, Lenora. Thank you for joining us for this Limelight interview. We're just gonna. Oh yes, no, thank you. Anything you want to say before we get going?
Not that I can think of. I think we're ready to just dive into
All right,
it.
let's dive on into it. So this is a question for both of you. I did go over this a little bit in the bios, but how long have you been drawing, creating, and kind of what's your background? Tell me about that.
You can go first.
Okay. So I've just always been a really creative person. I started, drawing, painting, more seriously, I suppose, in high school. I was in band, choir, all that stuff. Always wanted to do it, but never thought like, oh, I can spend a lot of time doing this, or I could maybe take this someplace. So I went to school to be a youth pastor. I'm not a youth pastor now. I'm actually a social worker during the day. And that has really, kind of let me be flexible and still work on my art. But yeah, in my bio, I've just really been a jack of all trades. I love pretty much anything artistic. I've probably tried most things at least once. But I've never really felt like, oh, I can master this until somewhat recently, like my bio said.
That's pretty awesome. How about yourself, Sean?
So I have been playing music for a very long time. I got started in band in middle school, played the saxophone. Really enjoyed it. Picked up guitar a couple years later, which is my main instrument. Played in some bands, did some recordings. None of it really panned out. And then, when everything kind of went into lockdown last year, I was looking for some sort of creative outlet, and just we had a friend that was making art for like the D&D tabletop space. I was like, I could do that with music, and just kind of went all in on it. Day job, I also do social work. We actually work for the same company. So that's kind of a fun thing.
No, that's excellent. Moni and Joe, who are the creators of Creators Assemble, are a married couple, and they do work together as well. So
Okay.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah.
This leads me to a question that it's kind of interesting that we all have these day jobs, and then we have these side passions or these side hustles.
Yeah.
So this leads me to my question is, if you could make your side hustles your main job, would you do that?
100%. Yeah.
I would too. And we both, doing social work as a day job, it is a job that, you should be passionate about. You should care about the clientele that you're working with. And we are, but there's also a lot of burnout, and there's a lot of trauma, secondhand trauma that you pick up from the job. And so I've been at the company that we're at for over 6 years now. And it's, it's really tiring. And so while the art and his music can also be very tiring, it has definitely, I think, kind of been a reprieve as well from our day job. So
It's a more welcome form of stress.
Yes, it's a creative stress, but you get to see this wonderful thing you put out into the world.
yeah.
So I think we've kind of covered this. So this again is a question for both of you. Answer in whatever order you like. How do you make your art, your music, your writing, and what is your process like?
Do you want me to go first this time?
Sure.
Okay. So my process for music really varies depending on like the project. For instance, if I'm like collaborating with like another creator in this space, or doing like a commission piece for somebody, I'll work off of a lot of like art or other music references, um, and try to like, really like break down like why those things work. Pull out like, the chord progressions, the instrumentation, just the overall like vibe and structure of the music, and try to recreate that and put my own spin on it. For like my normal Patreon releases though, usually I would honestly just sit down with like my excuse me, a MIDI controller, and just pluck stuff out and hope that it sounds good. And then once I like land on like an idea, I'll just start building that, like build up like the instrumentation, like the percussion and the strings and the trumpets and so on and so forth, until there's like a complete idea there that I'm happy with.
Nice. So sounds like that you play multiple instruments.
Well, I play all of it on like a keyboard.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's all like synthesized versions of instruments that I don't know how to play.
You do play some live guitar though for some pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do guitar. Obviously, there is like piano bits that are played in there as well,
Yes.
and but the majority of it is electronic instruments, which is just a super awesome thing that exists for people that don't have access to a full symphony orchestra.
That's really cool. I've heard some of your pieces and they are fantastic.
Well, I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
For me, I really just draw what I like. I like color. I'm obviously I do a lot of fantasy art. I think I come off fairly whimsical with a lot of my original pieces that I just do for myself. But how light plays is really important too. So as far as like the D&D, I also have a Patreon where I'm making content for the actual games. So battle maps, map assets, if you want to kind of tweak one of my maps or somebody else's map to better fit your campaign or whatever. And then monsters, magic items, I do a lot of that. I honestly, character art is probably my favorite. I just really like to draw people and what they're wearing, and I really like the play of shadows and light on faces, and just how like different everybody can look. Obviously humans are all very interesting to look at, so character art is really fun. So
That's
I do
cool.
a lot of that as well.
That's excellent. Okay, and this actually leads very nicely into my next question. How do you know when one of your pieces is done?
I would say that obviously I always get a second opinion from this guy. But I do like step back and I like take a look at it. I'll get that second opinion from him or somebody else. But really, like when it looks alive, I guess I don't really know how else to explain it. When you look at it and it just has that spark, and I'm happy with it. So for a battle map, maybe it's I see it and I see that story that somebody could tell with it, that fight that can happen on it, or the adventure that can happen on it. And if it's a character, yet again, it's like that spark of life behind the eyes, and that looks like they can almost jump off the page. So that's kind of when I know it's done.
That's awesome.
For me, I go until I feel like it complete, like it kind of finishes what I'm trying to accomplish. Um, trying to push out content on a weekly basis. I try to stay within a certain like time frame, like 2.5 to 4 minutes is kind of like a sweet spot that I've found for myself. Because anything, more than that is gonna take me longer than I would like, and I try very hard to like stick to like the posting schedule that I've imposed on myself.
Hey, that means you finish deadlines on time.
Most of the time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's always wiggle room.
Right.
Sometimes I'd imagine there's like a piece of your music or your art or your writing where it's like, this could use something, this could use something. I'm sure, I think all creators do this. What else can I add? What else can I add? And you, unfortunately or fortunately, stay awake at night and like, that's it. Have you ever had those moments with your own music or your art where you think it's missing something, then, this is what I'm going to add?
Usually for me, it's after I've already released it. It's like, oh, that would have been cool if I would have done that though.
Yeah, I mean, I do that too a little bit. Like, oh, I release something and I go, oh, this would have looked so much better if I would have done it this way. Kind of a funny version of your question is, I actually just did a commission for a movie poster, and as I was working on it, they wanted the main character to be drawn in the style of like Goosebumps.
Oh,
And so
cool.
I'm working on it, and I'm just like, oh, I hate this. This looks bad. I don't think this is going to turn out good. And then I took a step back and I thought, she doesn't have eyebrows. That's what's missing. So I slapped the eyebrows on there, did a little bit more work on the eyes, and I'm like, okay, this is coming together. It is going to be fine.
Oh, that is amazing. I really like that. So, with your art and music and writing that you're creating, do you have any messages or anything that you're trying to say with it?
Not particularly. Um, Obviously the idea is to try to have mass appeal. So like different tracks could be used in different ways. Because all of my content is available on Patreon for people to like use for podcasts, streams, their own like private sessions. So kind of just trying to find like a universal like appeal, like not too weird, but not too like boring and plain, and kind of like find like a middle road and just hope that people like it enough to use it.
I think in your
Of course.
individual pieces too, like if you are wanting it to sound emotional, you try to like convey like, those emotions though too. But there's not like a grand like message behind all of it. Right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm the opposite. I mean, as far as writing, having a really strong female character, main character, was hugely important.
Yeah.
I grew up as a massive, I just love to read. I was a big bookworm. And those characters that had that strong female lead were the ones that really stuck with me, and I think helped shape who I am today. So that's really important for me when it comes to writing. Diversity has been huge. I am not a person of color, but that is something I want to celebrate, and I want to try to give those voices, as much of a platform as possible. And I know, yet again, as a child, I did see a lot of diversity in a lot of the writings that I was reading or the movies that I was watching. And so looking back, I can see, how that enriched me. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that for younger generations now too. So that's big for me. And I think too, like, I've kind of always had this, like, I guess, phrase in the back of my head of everything starts with a story. And, whether it's the writing, of course, or, it can be music, and even D&D, so much of that starts with that story. And for me as well, like, I want some of that to shine through in what I'm drawing too. If it's not telling a story, then it's probably kind of boring. So
Of course. And then are there any like little, Jed, backtrack, is there like a little like, oh, Sean always puts these two exact notes in the specific spot in his music, identifying it as, this is a Sean McRoberts piece. And we'll all
Nah.
know that. Well, if you want to take that idea from me, I'm totally okay with that. I'm joking. No. And I'm not one to tell artists or creators how to do anything. I always like to joke with them, but no. And I think as you folks get more well known in the space, we're like, oh, yep, I know who that is. I know who that is. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about Lenora's debut novel. That really has me intrigued.
I need to find more time. I want it to come out this year so bad. It's in the editing stages, so it's pretty much done.
Oh, good. Yeah, the editing stage takes just as long
That's
or
true,
longer
though.
than the writing stage.
Yeah, how long exactly has it been in that stage?
Hey now.
Is that one of those where you cough into your hand? It's been
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we'll just skip over that. So, I think we touched on this, but I would like to dive a little bit deeper if we can. So this is for both of you. What does art, what does writing, what does music and creating it mean to you?
I just really like to create, just in general. I've always kind of written music for myself. And I think imposter syndrome is like a big thing that we're both kind of feeling right now. Cause like people are talking to us like about using our music and art for things. And it's like, really us? Why not these other great people? So just the fact that we've like carved out like a niche in that. Obviously, the end goal is to quit our day jobs and work on music and art full time, but that's probably a long ways down the road, if ever. But yeah, that's kind of all I got on that.
No, and which is fine. That says a
Yeah.
lot to me, honestly.
I think I touched on it a little bit with my last response, but it just all of that was a huge part of who I was as a child. I was a very awkward, nerdy teenager. I had really low self-esteem, dealt with some depression, and that's still something that I struggle with now as an adult. And a lot of the time, were you nodding? Yeah, for you too. But I think even when we get low, when we maybe put some of that creative stuff on the back burner, we come back to it because that's also where we find a lot of our joy. And so that's what it means to us. It brings us a lot of joy, and we love it.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like you're sharing a part of yourself that brings joy to you. You're sharing that joy with the world.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the going back to the whole imposter syndrome. Honestly, we all have that at that time. But that joy you're speaking to, I think the folks that are coming to you recognize that they like it and they want to support you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, trust me, I had imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, joy, am I going to be able to do this interview? Okay. Yeah, be good. That's what the editing process is for. So, and I do think we touched on this as well. What's your favorite part of creating?
Mine, I think, obviously actually doing it, of course, and then presenting something finished to somebody. But I love especially when it comes to commissions, I love the creative problem solving part of it. Like getting their ideas from their head and then having to, actually make it look good and make it real. I think is just really exciting. And I think a lot of artists talk about how they don't like commissions, and I'm just like, give them to me. I want them. I want them all. So I really like that.
For me, just kind of experimenting with different things, talking to other people in the community, because obviously, like, we're not the first people that have done these things. There's plenty that have come before that like are resources that we can like talk to and learn new things and kind of learn how the business side of it works and just making connections with honestly a very inclusive, like tight-knit, loving kind of community is what I feel like the tabletop and D&D community most of the time, with some outliers, obviously. It feels
Of
like.
course. Yes, of course. We've all been there or seen it, but I'd have to say it's to deviate for a moment, at least in the last couple of years, we've really seen this push for inclusion for everyone to enjoy Dungeons and
Absolutely.
Dragons and tabletop RPGs.
Mhm.
It's to me the power of it being able to just speak to kids or
Mhm.
anyone. They can see that, oh, I'm represented here. This is how I feel. This is how I can just create and enjoy, and it's just so powerful and moving to me. And then even some of, and to again deviate a little bit, how we found each other was Twitter and all
Yeah.
that D&D and tabletop stuff and tabletop RPG solidarity and all that great stuff. I came across both of you in a Twitter thread, I believe, posting and promoting your work. It's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I have got to follow them and see what they're doing. Well, I have the side gig. I'll ask, yay, interview. No, I mean, it's a shameless way to like, haha, I get to talk to creators that I enjoy.
Right.
Sure.
So, and it's just, and I think that inclusivity and all that kind of helps spark joy and fun and just the love of this game and creation, because I think at its heart, tabletops and D&D do speak to a creativity, and we all have different forms of it, be it music, be it storytelling, be it art, being really great at character voices.
Yeah.
Not me, but I have a buddy. They always end up as Christopher Walken for some reason, but he is fantastic. Okay, so this is going to be putting Lenora on the spot. So, Lenora, do you listen to music while you're creating? And specifically, is it Sean's music?
So I do most of the time. Obviously, if I need to keep ears on our two little children, then I can't really plug out too long. But yeah, I do. I love to listen to music. Um, kind of creating. This is going to be a fun D&D reference for you. Creating your magic circle is really important to me. That's what I call my little desk area, and
No, I love
and
it.
the music is a big part of that. I do listen to Sean sometimes, but I am not one of his Patreon people because I'm not going to give my own husband money. So he needs to put the music in a folder for me so I can listen to it. But yeah, I mean, I love his music, and some of his songs I really really love, and I'll tell him like, hey, play that song for me, because we do share an office space. But yeah, I do listen to a lot of like soundtracks from like fantasy, movies, shows. I love instrumentals, and then sometimes some pop music, will kind of scratch that itch. And then we actually were in a band together years ago. He
Oh,
played
yeah.
guitar in it, and I sang, and it was like a, what would you call it? Post or hardcore?
I don't know.
I don't know. It was very
I haven't
rockin'.
heard of that music genre before, but okay.
I don't
No,
know.
no,
It was
this
rockin'.
sounds.
I
Go
would do
ahead.
some screaming sometimes. So I'll listen to some of that sometimes too. So
Yeah, you're basically, you just listed off pretty much all my music tastes, and
there you
then
go.
some. And Sean, I'm sure this is a totally unfair question. Do you listen to music while you're creating? Is it your own music?
I don't really have that luxury. Uh, um, if I'm like trying to reference something, like I might listen to um like a song for like a little bit to try to figure out like what it is I'm trying to do. Um, but most of the time, yeah, I can't really do that. What I'm more likely to do, because I have like the double monitor setup,
Yeah,
is I'll have my music like here, and then if there's a basketball game on, it'll be here, like on mute.
I gotcha. So sports are kind of your jam a little bit while you're creating.
They can be, yeah.
Cool. Okay. And this, I always love asking this. What influenced you as an artist and a musician when you were younger? Like that go-to creator that like, yep, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first big like, more adult book series I read was Lord of the Rings. I got that set in 5th grade, and I had read Harry Potter before that, but Lord of the Rings just really struck a chord, I think. And I really think it was the character of Eowyn. I am no man, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, yes, queen. But yeah, that was huge for me. He was a fantastic author. Obviously, he was very detailed in his writing.
Ooh,
So that was a huge, fantasy, writing. I mean, the movies were coming out. We're about to come out at that point. And so that was definitely a huge inspiration at the time. Music has always been inspiring. And I think it's John Williams Waterhouse, I think, was an English painter who did a lot of the fantasy paintings. I actually have a reproduction of one of his, I think it's Guinevere Nighting a Night. And that was purchased for me when I was a child. So I still have that.
that's
So
so
just stuff
cool.
like that, that fantasy, I was very much rooted in that, and some sci-fi. My mom was a huge sci-fi nerd. So
That's cool.
For me, in regards to what music influenced me, like, a young teenager filled with angst, just getting into like guitar and stuff, like, um, just kind of going back in like those 80s like heavy metal bands like Metallica, Iron Maiden, and the
Yep.
like, and then stuff that was more modern kind of and new at the time, like My Chemical Romance and Avenged Sevenfold, were like big inspirations in my guitar playing. um as far as like more orchestral sounding music, my all-time favorite composer is the composer for the Final Fantasy series, Nobuo Uematsu. um and if I could just emulate him for the rest of my life, I would be fine with that.
I think we all would be. That is so cool. So, we've covered this. So, what keeps the drive going?
I, obviously we talked about there's a lot of joy in creating. If you experience something that brings you joy, you're gonna want to keep doing it. For me, I have a little bit of a stubborn streak of I'm gonna prove everybody in the world wrong. And so, I think we're kind of the generation, I think, that grew up a lot. Like, I know so many creative people around the same age as us who were just told by all of the adults in their lives, you can't make a career out of this. You can't, like this is just a tiny little hobby, it's not going to go anywhere. And so I think a lot of people our age are very much like kind of coming back to those things that were squashed out of them when they were younger. And so, yeah, for me, it's like, I'm going to do this and you're going to watch me do it. And there's nothing you can do about it. So that's a little bit of it for me, but yeah, the joy too. I love it. And I want to keep improving and I want to grow. And yeah, I want to see what I can do. So
My answer comes from a place that is far less vengeful. Um, just really like chasing that dream of like working for yourself, being self-employed. That's kind of what drives me to continue creating music. Like what is better than working for yourself, making your own schedule, doing what you want to do with your time? And I think everybody wants that somewhere deep down.
I think so. I agree. So, what is success?
At this point for me, success is just getting through the day and checking more things off of my to-do list than I add to it. Like that's enough for me.
yeah, I mean, I guess not to sound cheesy, but success is just continuing to do something that makes me happy. If you lose the passion, if you lose the joy for it, then you failed, or somebody has failed you. They've stamped it out. But I think success too, like there's a quote that says ships in harbor are safe, but that's not what ships are built for. And so success for me is just, continuously putting myself out there. Like I just said, to grow, to try something new, to talk to new, more people, to new people, and to keep trying to create the next, big beautiful thing, I guess. So
That's cool. All right, now what I truly wanted to talk to about, what does D&D mean to both of you?
oh, we love D&D. I mean, gosh, we started, well, we had tinkered around with it years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think it was the right people. We didn't really have the resources. It's just kind of a weird time in our lives too. But back in 2018, as my bio talked about a little bit, we kind of reconnected with some other friends who had been playing for a long time, and they were just like, "Hey, we're starting a new campaign. Would you guys like to join and give it a try?" And we did, and now that group of people who we weren't super close to is now our best friends. Absolutely our best friends. And we've been playing the same campaign actually since 2018. It just grows. I think, what do we refer to it now? In game?
Yeah, it's not specifically the same campaign. It's an overarching story with all of the other campaigns
like 3 in 1.
It.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah,
really love that.
Yeah, we have like 4 or 5 characters that we can choose from that are all interconnected. It's crazy. And our dungeon master, shout out to Jeff. He's an extraordinary storyteller. The voices, as you talked about, he does great voices. And like I said, we're just all comfortable. We love each other. I say friends, but we're really probably closer more to family at this point. And so yeah, it has just brought so much that solidarity, that connection. We stayed connected even through quarantining. We played online, and that was huge for my mental health. And yet again too, like I said earlier, everything starts with the story, and there's just the richness of the stories that you can tell and share through D&D. It's just extraordinary.
I don't really have a whole lot to add to that. Just the whole community aspect of it, hanging out with friends, telling a compelling story, working together to solve what's in front of you. Aside from the group that she spoke of, I run a campaign on Friday nights for her siblings and some of their friends, and it's an age range of 18 to mid 20s, and we're I'm 30, she'll be 30 shortly.
Yeah.
So it's just this big age gap, and we're all on the same page. And I don't know that there's too many hobbies that that can happen with.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I've been DMing for 5 years now, and I've had people as young as 18 all the way up to mid 60s, honestly, and older.
We've even done a campaign with our 2 kiddos too. Little some little tweaks, but it works great.
Your mom has played with us a little bit.
My mom has played a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And I was going to ask if your kiddos played D&D with you. I think it's wonderful for kids. It helps present some problem solving very simply, and they can just kind of have fun in this
even
for lack of a
math.
better word. Yes, exactly.
The dice and the adding up rolls. Yeah.
Great learning tools.
Absolutely.
I'm on the other side of things of Creators Assemble. We have this thing called Educators Unite, and we're currently working to take D&D and tabletop RPGs and teach educators how to play so they can take it into their classrooms or their colleges, and just give these kids this opportunity, the math, the social interactions, just the everything. And it has the power to make them, I believe, the best possible version of themselves that they want to be. So that's me on my little soapbox, but I'll get down now. So, okay, another meaty question here. Can you tell me about some of the favorite characters that you've played? Doesn't have to be great, but that one character's like, yep, this is the best character I've ever made so far.
Ooh,
I know it's a tough question if you're playing
yeah,
multiple characters.
yeah. I mean, I've had some silly ones, some serious ones. I think my favorite is probably I had a well, I still have her. We just haven't really played, but a tiefling sorcerer. I say sorceress because she's female, and we were kind of we were told to kind of be a little like hokey with the names because we were doing the one campaign, I think, or not hokey, but just kind of silly, I guess.
It
And
was
so
like a combination of the like the written adventure Descent into Avernus combined with like the third party Acquisitions Incorporated.
yeah,
Oh,
so we
that's a
were
fantastic combo.
yeah. So we were kind of encouraged, you could be a little silly, a little cheesy. So I named her Mazikeen Malicious. She went by Maz. She had a British accent. She was very like, "Hello, I'm Maz. I'm here to stomp all over you," just like real. She's kind of like a punk princess kind of thing, Yeah. And then it continued on, and she ended up being the daughter of Belial. And so she'd always, when she didn't get her way, she'd yell for her daddy Belial to come and rescue her. So,
Oh, I absolutely love everything about that.
yeah. So she was really really fun. She loved her companions, but she really liked to talk shit about them. So,
That's great.
yep.
For me, my favorite character, um, he's a high elf warlock that patronizes the Queen of Air and Darkness, an archfey. And the concept of the character, one day we were like playing, and I approached like our DM, and I was like, "Hey, would you be cool with me making like an anti-hero kind of character to kind of like go against the grain of the rest of the party, maybe even go against the party in some ways?" He's like, "Sure." Um, so for a very long time, he was this evil, manipulative, just all around bad person looking out for himself. And then more recently, like as his relationship with the other players characters grew, and by extension like our relationship with the players, like, well, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. um and now he's using all of that charisma and political clout and nefariousness for the forces of good.
See, I kind of like seeing character arcs like that, where it's like, I'm over here, but whoop. And that's influenced by the characters and the players, and kind of leads to this organic storytelling, which is cool. So we're closing in on our time here, because I mean, personally, I could chat for 5-6 hours, but I'm sure you folks have other things you would like to do with your day. So, overall, what do you want to give to the world that you'll be remembered for? I know it's a heavy question to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after just talking about D&D characters. It's like,
I mean,
what
hey,
will
that's
you
something to
remember
be known for.
I don't really know, honestly. Just be remembered as like a good person, like a beacon in the community, that is, friendly, easy to get along with, and supportive. Uh, I don't
Yeah.
want to like try to come up with some cocky kind of pat myself on the back kind of answer. I think that's more important, to just be, yeah, to help others and be that light.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I think I agree with that as well. It's originally why I thought I was going to be a youth pastor, was I just wanted to, you know, try to make a difference in people's lives.
Of
I
course.
realized that I probably could do that a little bit better in a more tangible way, which is why, the social work came about. And, being able to just to encourage but also challenge people, I think is really important. You can encourage somebody with the growth that they've already done, but if you're not challenging them to grow more, then you end up with a lot of stagnant people. And so I don't want to be stagnant. And I think, if you're going to be, a creative person in the community, sharing your stuff, talking a lot, um, you should give back to. So I think that is a big thing that we're both about. Um, and hopefully I'll have a book out with my name on it, Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll do everything we can help you get there. All right. Before I move on to our last question, is there anything we didn't want to talk about? Anything that you want to plug? Any like, oh, I have this one fun thought I want to share.
I would just say, talking about, encouraging and inspiring and stuff. You can do a lot with what you have and where you are. And that was really proven true recently. I know I talked earlier about that movie poster. It was a director and a production company here in Indiana, and they have stuff that is on Netflix that is going around, the whole world at like, film festivals and stuff. And they're doing that from Indiana. We have more than corn here. Surprise, surprise. But and we're creating in an office that used to be part of our garage. There's a lot that you can do, and you don't have to move to Hollywood to do it. You don't have to shell out thousands and thousands of dollars. And really at the end of the day too, like if you have the talent, grow it, work on yourself. College is great. Lessons or whatever are great, but you have to have that drive. And if you have that drive, you can accomplish anything, no matter where you are.
I don't have any.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think we need to hire Lenora as a motivational speaker.
Yes, I like that. I enjoy it.
I can tell.
I already have a lot of that on my plate, but
Hey, with something else. All right. So where can people find you on social media?
We're both, I think, most active on Twitter.
Yeah, if people are wanting to talk to us, interact with us, Twitter, my handle is at Sean McRow. Patreon also, I'm gonna go ahead and plug that. Patreon.com/McRowMusic.
Yeah, my Twitter handle is it the writer Lenora? At the writer Lenora? I think so.
You can look really quick.
I should probably have that memorized, but I don't.
Oh, no worries. I don't even know how to spell my Twitter handle half the time.
There you go.
How do I spell caffeinated? Does that have 4 Fs? No.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, butcher that too. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm very active on Twitter. That's where I do most of my things. My Patreon is under the name Divination Illustrations. That's what I draw under, and create that kind of thing. I do have a Facebook page. I'm on Instagram, but like I said, if you want to talk, and I love to talk, if that's not been apparent, then you can message me on Twitter.
Very good. Okay, and that's going to wrap up our March Limelight interview. Thank you for your time today, Sean and Lenora. If you would like to,
having us.
Oh yes, no, thank you. If you would like to be in our Creators Assemble Limelight, or just looking for a helping hand in the creative world, then go find out more at creatorsassemble.org. You can find me on Twitter at caffeinated_Dan. I'm pretty active there, happy to answer questions. And also on Creators Assemble, you can check out our Limelight galleries for Sean and Lenora and all of our upcoming events. Catch you next time.